Hello, everyone, and welcome to what I hope you will enjoy as a new feature on Conference News, as I'm joined by the unflappable Peter Heath from Venue Performance, where we're going to be discussing venue data in all its glory. How are you, Peter?
I'm very good, thank you, Martin. A little bit better after yesterday's news, so yeah, looking a bit chipper today.
Yeah, I think we all are, and I think having discussions like this is really important because venue data has long been one of the missing pieces of the event industry puzzle. I think you've just written a piece for Conference News, which at the time of recording this is about to go out, and I think you've touched on some really interesting points there. At the end of the day, we all need to share a collective responsibility of putting the data into the pool that which we can all draw upon to just make better business decisions and better understand the industry, don't we?
I think so, and it's a little bit odd because normally when you're running a business, you're selling things, and that's understandable, whether it's advertising or sponsorship or what have you. But with venue performance, it's not actually my data; it's your data, it's the industry's data. So the more contributors we have, the better it will be for everybody. So, and I will just do what the market wants us to do. I'll measure what the market wants us to measure. So I'm all for the greater good and the bigger cause rather than just flogging my own wares, as it were.
Oh, an anomaly. There you
Yeah.
go. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It is all for the greater good. We need the data. That's what we lack. As a trade press journalist for the field, there are some interesting insights and reports that come out every few months or every year, but we need a more consistent base to draw upon to see the trends emerge. And particularly this year, more than any, things are going to be changing all the time. I mean, how do you, for example, respond to yesterday's news? I mean, it sounds great. 21st of June sounds like the magic go date that we've all been waiting for, but things will no doubt change as we go.
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody wants that certainty and wants something to aim for or aim at. If you don't have anything to aim at, then you're going to keep missing all the time. So I think with that date, driven by the data, obviously I've been all over the data. Old Witty and Valence, they're my kind of.
Should we get you? We need to get you one of those. We don't get you a clicker. We'll need to just arrange some slides for this and some pie charts, and you can keep asking me for the clicker. Maybe that seems to get people's attention.
That's for future. When we have more data in future ones of these episodes, if you want to call them, then yeah, we'll use the data. We'll look at the charts. We'll look at the slides and we'll draw meaning from those slides. But interpreting the data is gathering the data, as we've seen from the medical experts. Gathering the data is one thing, but then interpreting it and drawing meaning from it so that you can then use it for actionable, tangible actions within your business. That's another challenge altogether. And I think that's what the government are grappling with. And I think that's what the industry, the M&E industry, has never really had the opportunity to do before because they've never had the data. So I'm really excited about being able to help the industry with the centralized communal effort of everybody contributing to the data and drawing meaning from it. Yeah, it's quite exciting. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And I think for those who aren't fully aware, Peter and I, Conference News, have kind of come together to just try and get our heads around the data and share it with the community so we can all sort of make better decisions and get build up a clearer picture of what the industry's like. And I know that our partnership is in its infancy, but obviously you've had your first batch of data input from venues come in January. I'm not sure into how much detail you've delved, but are there any kind of trends that you've spotted in January so far that you think might be of interest to people?
Well, just to be clear, we've been collecting data since 2018. So this is our third, this is 18, 19, 20. This will be our fourth year of data. Obviously 2020 was a fallow year, but it'll be interesting in the future because the data will enable businesses to map out, major events and what the market trends are. But from the data that's come in early in January, pre yesterday's announcement, all of the efforts and the inquiries and the bookings were mainly focused around weddings in the private sector, as you'd imagine. Banqueting and private functions are still being held back, but weddings, there's clearly that pent up demand in weddings. And on the other side, not so much business events, but filming. We've heard lots of stories of venues turning their hand to filming, and lots of filming being able to be done because the streets are empty and the venues are empty. So weddings are clear winners, although not big weddings. And filming, and some of the filming is being very lucrative. You've got some American companies. The Brits are quite savvy when it comes to pricing, but the Americans are they haven't got a clue, so they're writing big checks. So that's an interesting sector that was not really there before. Well, it was, but I think a lot more venues have now tapped into that.
That's the thing, isn't it? But I think, a lot of people, in the conference and meetings industry, they roll their eyes when you say weddings, and I get that weddings is a really important part of the events mix at large. It's worth something along the lines of, I think, £15 billion to the UK every year. But rolling it back to the kind of business events market that we know and love, after yesterday's announcement, what do you sort of expect to see in terms of data patterns over the next few weeks, over the next couple of months?
Well, one of the reports that we are due to be launching shortly is an inquiry report. So we already measure bookings. So we can measure now what books. So in any given month, two things happen. You take a booking and you run an event. That's what happens in normal times. Obviously, not many events have been happening at the moment. So we can see what events are being booked and when they are being booked for. So we can measure the lead time. And those lead times, as you would expect, are typically into back end of 21 and early 22. But for the new reports, which will be out in probably about 6 weeks' time, we'll be able to then start to measure the inquiries. So we'll start to, the short answer to your question is, I don't know. And I don't expect anything in this world because I've given up predicting. I'll look at the data. But we can see the data of events that have gone behind us in terms of our past, which is a little bit futile at the moment because it doesn't really have any meaning or context. But more to the point, we'll be looking at the inquiries and the bookings for future events, when they'll be booking for, how much per head, what lead times, what size, what type of venues. So you'll be able to look at the data from a whole range of places, and I'm sure that's what we'll be doing in future versions of these.
Yeah, what do you sort of think is a reasonable turnaround time or a lead time before booking? I know that 2021 isn't going to be the standard bearer for future years because of of where we are, but normally it's me when my wife says we're going out for dinner, can you book a restaurant? I'll leave it to half an hour before we're supposed to go out, which I guess most corporate event managers are not like. They'll be booking months down the line. Are there any particular markers that we'd be looking for? For example, when are people going to start booking their Christmas parties?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next biggest batch of bookings. I think we're not. Let's still forget we're 3 months away from running events yet. So and that's fresh news. So that the timelines might even change again. So I don't think we're going to be seeing anything major in Q3. I think we'll see some smaller events, as you said, some of the sort of shorter lead time, smaller events, maybe smaller companies. The big brands, I still think, will stay away, possibly for the best part of this year. What they might do is unleash their workforce with one big almighty Christmas season, which will be brilliant for everybody. Let's face it. We all need to come together and hug and be face to face with each other again. That'd be funny, wouldn't it? A Christmas party all with masks on. But I think the Christmas party is probably going to be the biggest batch of businesses. I think conferences will come back in some shape or form this year. But talking to the venues, a lot of them are forecasting in terms of budgeting low. They're budgeting between 30 and 40% of what 2019 or what they did in 2019, and that is going to be back ended. So I think Q1 and Q2 is a write-off, as we know. Q3, a trickle of smaller meetings and business events will come back, and then Q4 we'll see a gradual pickup with crescendoing into the Christmas party big bang, hopefully.
Yeah, I think I've spoken to a lot of agencies over the last couple of weeks in conversations I've had with corporates and venues as well. It seems to sort of imply that internal conferencing, team building, education, team training, that sort of stuff is what we can expect to see first. We know that whatever happens, we're only talking about the domestic market right now. It's all intra-UK. international travel will, it's going to be off the cards on any real main purpose for another year at least, I reckon. So everything's sort of in context, but internal comms, smaller meetings, I mean, that's surely got to be what venues can expect the phones to be ringing and asking for first, right?
Yeah, I think so, and I think from smaller meetings from smaller companies as well. I think the big, like I said, I think the big brands will stay away until they're very, very safe, because they'll be employing lawyers left, right, and centre for the litigation of people contracting coronavirus, or health and well-being and what have you. So I think the big brands will stay away for probably till next year, but the smaller, more localized domestic brands will start bringing them back this year. And we'll see. We'll see what the data says. We'll see whether it's short lead times, smaller meetings, whether they want to push the boat out price wise and go for a little bit of F&B and a few frills and spills, or whether they want to just keep it short, sweet, in and out, and just bring everybody together again and then out the door again. Again, the devil will be in the detail of the data, and the data will give us a real insight into what the trends are of the market, both short term and long term as well. So it'll be fascinating to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really interested to see how the kind of AV and broadband capability influences event planners' decision making, because let's be totally honest, a lot of venues right now are in financial trouble as well. While I'm sure some were able to get support and everyone's been able to make use of the furlough scheme, there's certainly been research done elsewhere that suggests that a lot of are on their knees financially too. Maybe they haven't been able to invest in spanky new AV and fancy broadband that's very, very fast and all of that sort of stuff. If we consider the fact that internal events will not be able to have any sort of international say whatsoever, hybrid is necessarily going to be an option. So if a venue hasn't got that sort of capability, is the data going to show that up, do you reckon?
I think so. One of the things that we're going to be, again, we've got quite a few extra reports that we're developing behind the scenes, and one of them is going to be a hybrid report. So we're not going to be measuring hybrid events. We're going to be measuring whether or not an event that was held in a venue was a hybrid as well. So you'll be able to filter by hybrid tick box. So we'll be able to see what percentage of events are hybrid. And I personally think the hybrid is going to be a key battleground for venues, because I think one of the key questions that customers will ask a venue is, do you have a hybrid solution? Do you have a virtual solution? Do you have a plug and play solution? Or can I plug and play into your solution at a relatively modest cost? Or have I got to bring in my AV team, or have I got to hire your AV team? And that's that's going to just put a huge burden on the event budget. In which case they'll opt for another venue that has got a plug and play offering. So it's a really tricky one for venues. And as you said, Martin, some of them are really suffering, and our heart goes out to them. But I do think that if they can find it somewhere within their backers and their financial sort of teams to invest in that hybrid, I think it's going to pay off long term, because I think it's not going to go away. And I heard a frightening statistic the other day from somebody, a very, very experienced, I think he used to be in the government actually, and he's all over data, and he says that business travel is going to drop by 60% over the next 5 years.
60%?
60%. 60%. I'll dig it out for you, but that sent shivers down my spine, because that's events all over the place, isn't it? And quite frankly, you're going to get questioned if you're going for a meeting, or if you're getting on a plane to go for a meeting. You're going to be quizzed whether or not that is necessary, both from a cost, technical solution, and health and well-being perspective, as well as time. So, business travel is going to see a huge shakeup, and I think that's going to have an impact on the airlines industry. But that's another story altogether. But yeah, business travel is another key battleground, I think, which could have a massive impact on events. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out.
Well, it does, doesn't it? People say business travel, but I've always been of the belief that business travel and events go hand in hand. I mean, why would anyone travel for business? It's generally for a meeting. That is a business event by definition, even if it's just two people. So it's a massively intrinsic part of everything we do. I mean, at the moment, do you think we've got enough venues putting their data into the pot so that we can actually draw accurate conclusions and understandings of the marketplace at the moment?
Oh yeah, we've got enough data. The data is robust enough with the number of, we've got nearly 85 venues all in London. Let's be clear, it's a predominantly London-based. Well, no, it is a London-based platform at the moment, so it's a bellwether for the UK. There are other challenges with bringing in places like, dare I say it, I don't know, Norwich or Bristol or Newcastle, because it's a little bit disparate. So therefore, the data won't give you the insight. But the London data that we've got a lot of definitely gives us enough insight. Obviously, the more that contribute, the merrier. And that's the whole purpose of helping the venues out, because then they will be able to see how their competitive set are performing. So that's the commercial benefits to the individual venues, and obviously to the events industry as a whole. We will be able to understand what's going on, what the trends are, what the movements are, and then when we need to, or when we want to, we'll be able to present that or use that data to present the information to the government for further support. Or I know that you've been a big advocate of getting, obviously, a minister for hospitality, as well as changing the SIC codes. So all of that needs ammunition, and we need a base, and we need the guns to be able to fight that battle with. And I think this data pool is only going to help that, and the more that contribute, the merrier.
Well, that's the rub, isn't it? I mean, there has been, of all things, some manner of progress the last couple of weeks. The Business Visits and Events Partnership and the Institute of Event Management came together to announce that the SOC code, the Standardized Occupational Classification Code, has been updated. So therefore, the actual event manager job role can be measured more accurately. I mean, that might sound just like a boring piece of admin to the layman, and perhaps it is, but it's significant, because it now means that a particular job role in our sector can be more accurately measured than before. The SIC codes one, it really it gets to me. It keeps me awake at night sometimes, because I did when I did this expose feature a few months ago. I went on Companies House, with a bag of crisps and a cup of coffee, and for hours I went through 200 companies. And only a quarter of them, a fifth of them, 20% were using any of the meagerly available event SIC codes. All these other businesses which operate in our world are classified elsewhere. And I have it on unofficial authority. I don't know how much truth there is to this, but it's an anecdote nonetheless. We love an anecdote. Is that Rishi Sunak purposefully rolls his eyes at the sound of the events industry, because we cannot get our acts together and get our data mix right, because we're just so disparate. I've been on a few Clubhouse calls. Clubhouse is the cool new app where all the cool kids hang out. A couple of chats discussing this, and there's just people thinking, let's put up barriers to entry, but it's not just that so straightforward. We are requiring on people's goodwill and voluntarily giving us their data. Otherwise, we're just not going to be able to paint a picture. We've just got to keep banging the drum, haven't we? And just getting the message out there. Get involved, sign up, share your data, so we can help paint the picture.
I think so. I don't. I've always been in favour of trying to change things from within, rather than shouting and throwing stones from the outside. So the way to do that is to play the game. They want information, they want hard facts, they want data, and that's the same in any business, Martin. If you're a young buck of a salesperson or a marketing person or an editorial person, and you've got a brilliant idea, and you waltz into your boss's office and say, I've got a great idea, I want to do this. The first question they'll ask you is, well, how much is it going to cost us, and what are we going to get back from it? So everything unfortunately comes back to data and numbers. And if we can't go to the government with confidence, knowing our numbers, then we're on a bit of a sticky wicket. We're on the back foot already, because we'll just get swatted away every single time. So I think there is a growing appetite now to come together. There's a growing appetite and a very willing appetite to share data, which I think is a sensible, and I mean, most industries do it. Let's be clear about this. Most professional industries have some form of benchmarking and sharing of data. We don't. Well, until now, of course, we don't. It's always ever been surveys and research and this, that, and the other. And they've been, every other year, every 3 years, whenever anybody can whip enough cash together to do another survey. And the surveys are good and they're better than nothing, but they're not robust enough to go marching into government and say, we need a Sitco change, we need a hospitality minister, we need more help for furlough, we need more help on business rates, or whatever it may be. To bang our drum, we need data, and that's the game the government play. That's the game we've got to play. As simple as that, really.
Data. We cannot make bricks without clay, I believe Sherlock Holmes said.
Did he? Right. I'll
take my word for it.
Yeah. Yes, I will.
And that's the thing, really. So, well, let's wrap it up then, Peter. What are the key things you hope to see over the next, let's just say over the next couple of months when the data starts rolling into you? What constitutes a positive outlook?
Well, bookings. I think bookings. We're looking for people to sign contracts and to commit. We know that the terms and conditions are going to be flexible, and we get that, and everybody gets that. But I think if the intent is there to make a booking for the future, whether that's Q3, Q4, Q1 next year, that's what everybody wants. So we'll be able to see that. We'll be able to see it. It will literally be loud and clear when the venue starts submitting their data every month, which they do at the moment. If the booking column gathers pace in terms of number, volume, types, that's the big number we can start looking for. Yeah.
Well, that sounds reasonably encouraging. That's what we're keeping our eyes open for. So we're going to meet again next month to see what you've discovered, what's happening right now. Certainly after yesterday, 22nd of February's announcement, let's hope for some more positive news. Absolutely. Okay, Peter, so thanks forever. Good chat, and we'll talk next month.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Cheerio.